Hey Steve,
Hey Dominic.
how are you doing? How was your
All right.
doctor?
Oh man, I was so happy. My teeth are healthy. I was like, all I had to do was get clean, so that was nice. Hi, Kenrick.
Lucio as well. Cool.
Doing well.
Lucio.
Hello,
Good to
Steve. How
see
are you?
you. Leonardo. I don't know if
Hey
y'all know
everyone.
Leonardo. Leonardo's become a pretty good friend of mine, and he's in. I get you're in the second Plutus Pioneer group,
Yes.
right?
How are you going,
Yeah.
guys?
Hi. Yeah, let's see how many people are coming in today because there's a lot of competition between the rooms, right? It's like 9 rooms today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't expect
That's-
that. Yeah. Well, when I asked you, Steve, the main idea was yeah, just to cover some of these challenge settings, and I saw you writing in the Telegram chat of the community advisors about your challenge settings, and I thought it's maybe good to give this a bigger stage here, and also I see
Okay.
Sophie coming in, and he's also submitted a bunch
Yeah.
of challenges saw so far. So I'm just
Good.
interested a little bit to talk about that and see what your
Yeah.
thoughts were submitting them and how we can improve
Yeah.
them maybe. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm really curious to hear Sosha's ideas too. Like we've been trying to hook up all week, but we're doing it here. So it's nice. Um, Hi, Drake. Hi, Herman.
Hey, Steve.
Quasar, my little butterfly. Um, well, hmm, I don't know how to start. I got involved a little over a year ago in Catalyst, and so I was very much a lurker at the beginning, and then I didn't talk much. And then over time, Mercy and I became friends during Fund Two, and that was kind of the beginning of my joining the Grow Cardano, or joining the WADA team and being a part of the Grow Africa, Grow Cardano challenge proposal. And I can only tell you how it is from my perspective, and I know that it's narrow, and I do not want to be in denial of anybody else's perspective about what Catalyst is or how it should be or could be or anything like that. But I like when people talk about first principles, and I try to apply them, particularly in situations like this, and so for me, when I look at this community and the size of it and the breadth of it, it's literally around the world. And then I go to Pool Tool or one of the other stake pool observation websites, and I see like the overwhelming majority of stake pools are in North America and Europe. And, I live in the United States, and for myself, I don't feel like we have a stable situation here. It's just not. We have a very divided country. And, from afar, it kind of looks the same way in Europe. Is that there's real division and hard to find consensus about what to do.
Unity.
Yeah, and so and we know that the regulation machines are getting warmed up. Crypto has finally caught their attention, and they're going to start doing stuff, and that may work out okay, but more than likely, I mean, in my life's history, 60 years, I can tell that the regulatory machine serves the interests of the people who are already, the main influencers in everything, whether it's
That,
financing
that
or industry or anything like that.
that's why,
So
in terms of that accord, I want the community to sign it before Atala fully comes on in the West. If we all sign that, they're not going to ever try anything stupid because it's basically saying we'll buck on you and take your network down if you use this digital ID for any sort of oppressive or tyrannical or
Right,
discriminatory manner.
right.
I think it's
So,
very important.
so
And that's not
to
even a challenge setting, but it is a challenge we can take care of without a proposal. We just need to
mhm,
sign.
mhm. So to bring this back to, the challenge setting proposals, then in my view, like what's the best thing that we can do, from this Catalyst community and this wonderful funding mechanism we have with the community treasury. And it seems to me like the smart thing to do is to go in those areas where there's not a lot of stake pools. Like a couple of weeks ago, I counted up stake pools in South America and Africa, and I couldn't get to 25, and that's, as a
We're
percentage of,
decentralized enough, though, that that doesn't need to be the priority. The most beneficial utility that can come from any cryptocurrency is spending it like money without a third party. We have the ability to build that on Cardano. The founding structure is already here to do it without a third party like Coinbase to hold your ADA to spend. That
okay,
that utility is the foremost in any crypto. If you could spend it like money, then the other utilities
Wait,
come along with it.
Greg, can you, Steve, let make his point to the end,
Yeah,
and then we
certainly.
can keep on
Sorry.
going with the discussion.
That's
But
my hand. I'll take it
Steve
down. Sorry.
wasn't done. Yeah, so
I'll
please.
take it down.
um, so it's just been my feeling that, we've got 1 billion people in Africa. We have, I don't know how much in the Latin American community, and I'm not sure, but I'm assuming well over 1 billion people in Eastern Asia, and just on that stake pool level and just on the level of involvement we see within the Catalyst community, these areas of the world are underserved, and they give us that flexibility of really geographically decentralizing the protocol. And I do disagree with Drake, and I've spoken about this in other circumstances, not with Drake. I think that the smartest thing to do when it comes to the Cardano ADA is to go with the narrative that it is a commodity, because when you think about it as a commodity, what its purpose is to secure the protocol, right? Charles recently said that, he's multiple times he said that ADA is a commodity, and he recently said that if he could do it, he would have it 100% staked. And that's possible to still exchange with one another, and it can remain staked. But the main thing about it being a commodity and it's staked means it's off the market, and it's not being used as money. It's being used as a utility token to secure that protocol. When this overwhelming majority, and this is why everybody's so proud, when anybody from IOG speaks about the growth of the network, they always talk about the over 70% of the ADA being staked. Why is that important? It's very important because it's saying to bad actors, and it is saying to governments, we're not selling this. We're not using this as money. We are securing our protocol, and that's the purpose of this crypto. With the protocol secure and functioning, the blockchain technology then is opened up for everybody around the world, because then we can build those kinds of wealth building applications and other tokens that will run on the Cardano stake protocol. And so, to again try to bring it back to challenge settings, my goal with the challenge settings that I just did here for the Fund 7 funding round was, my purpose was to go to those areas of the world and say, hey, we've got this much money available for you, and the community will vote for those things that build out the protocol in your region of the world. All you have to do is, have the skills or the intent or both, and be able to, show us what you have, and we will back you up. And I think it's a huge statement, and I think there's so much money, starting at Fund 7 I mean, if we could have $500,000 in Africa with all of the people that are making proposals, we could do a lot of work. We could get a lot of work done. We could raise the awareness, and we could actually get across that education about not just ADA and the fact that it moves from one wallet to the next really quick and cheap and easy, but the technology. This is how you can restructure your community. This is how you can restructure your nation, not just in terms of finances, but in terms of like being efficient, being able to secure elections and know without a doubt that they are valid. Having decentralized products that are not designed and written for big pocket gamblers. I don't care about yield farming. I don't want catalysts. I think it's a waste of time for catalysts to spend money on yield farms and these other kind of investment things. We make money, right? We grow value with the Cardano protocol. And with this protocol, we can also help the housewife, the mother, the single guy just build value within his own life. And I think that if we can find the teams around the world, and I know that we have them in Latin America, I know that we have them in Africa, and I know that we have them in East Asia. We have people who know about this and understand this dynamic. Let's just target them. As the Catalyst community, let's speak to them and say, hey, we've got space and time and cash for you. Come to us and let's help you build out this ecosystem in your part of the world. So that's pretty much all I got to say there.
I think that's a really great idea, and it's really the kind of tackles the heart of Cardano, at least as I understand it, all the mindset that I meet here, and so I really like that idea. And but I now want to give Soshi the stage, because you've raised your hand for minutes now. Please.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that you touch on, and I mean, in the core, like I understand where the proposals are coming from, and I think there's like what they're trying to achieve is something that we need to focus on, right? And there has to be funding available to make those things possible, right? So if at any point I am sort of like raising some questions about the specific proposals, is not to judge the overall idea, but more to look at to look at it in the context of like the whole challenge setting, and that's I think what I'd like to do is like take a step back to not think too specifically yet about specific proposals, right? Because it's easy to get stuck on like the proposal you're writing or that you know about, but to think about like because it's an overarching theme that is present in different proposals in different ways, right? And like even more so is that if it is a theme that is present in every challenge that is proposed in some way, right? There's no way around it. It's not even does this specific proposal get funded or another one. It's just like this is something that every challenge proposer believes in. It just happens, and they all put some KPI in that focuses a bit on like makes it explicit that hey, this should also be measured, right? Even if this is just like a developer ecosystem, we should have a KPI that measures like what is the distribution of teams across the globe, right? and that way you create that kind of inclusivity, like no matter which challenge even gets like gets in there, right? If they all include some of that. And it's also that there's well, I think it's pretty nice to see actually, if you look at the current offering of challenge proposals, there's quite a few of them, but I would say that I think at least half of them have some focus on really like trying to improve inclusivity very specifically, or to build infrastructure in Africa, you know, or like very specifically focusing on those mission-driven proposals that you have also made a challenge for. And so I think like it would be nice like if we can just collaborate with all those people who are thinking the same way, and find a way that we can just get all those proposals in, right? And even if that means like balancing the budget so there's space for all of them, to have like the diversity in challenges, because it would be a shame, like there's just really good ideas if I look at the offering. And I think it would be nice to try and collaborate to see if we can just spread the ideas, the best parts of ideas among different challenges, so they all include those. So we increase the chance of them getting onboarded, you know, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, thanks, Sosha. I think that's if we can get the community to that point that we really have these conversations about how should Fund 7 look like. Well, the challenge setting is it's all about that the community takes the lead and the action, how Catalyst and Cardano is going to look like in the future. And so I really like the thinking here that those who set up the challenges come together and try to find or streamline the ideas, and so that we kind of get the most out of all those ideas. And is there someone in the room that has submitted a challenge as well? So someone else?
I did just
Yeah.
submit one today. I can describe it.
Yeah.
So in Fund 4, I was just awarded funding to do analysis on diversifying the voting influence. And we're looking at different strategies for how to weight the voting so that there'll be better balance across wealth cohorts. Because with the one coin, one vote model we're using right now, there's a kind of concern that that would tend towards a plutocracy. We've put in funding. We're proposing in Fund 6 to actually do a design and simulation of what some recommendations that come out of the initial analysis. And then for Fund 7, we've put a challenge in to actually implement a prototype. And this came out of discussions with the IOG Voltaire team, where they suggested that there be some kind of either a toy vote, or what I'm kind of thinking, but actually looking for input on this, the prototype vote could be either some kind of toy vote that's not as consequential as funding projects and catalysts. Or what I was thinking is, I think a better way to do it is to select one of the funds, say for instance, the developer ecosystem, and have a smaller pool of money, say like $50,000, and do a ranking based on this new prototype voting. And whichever projects were not awarded funding originally under our current system, but under this new proposed ranking system, would have gotten funding, then they would get, some pool, something like 50,000 or whatever the pool is decided for it. So there'd need to be funding both to, for whichever project got awarded from that, and then also funding to actually manage the voting process.
So it
I
seems
like
like
that.
you have already a specific idea to submit in the challenge.
Well, and I don't, there is I think that's a legitimate criticism that it might be too narrowly defined. But one way I'm thinking about it is that, well, my colleague and I are doing the research and development as to propose different kinds of voting systems. It could be another team that actually implements it and, actually does the testing of it.
Yeah.
I like the, like that first, when we made the Grow Africa, Grow Cardano challenge proposal back in February or whenever that was. It's hard to think ahead, but I start to really gravitate to the idea that, if you have a challenge proposal for a specific thing, then you should be able to define it narrowly. I mean, like in that first Grow Africa, Grow Cardano challenge, when we could actually vote for projects in Africa. I mean, we had people who wanted to give away Bibles and solar panels. And in that proposal, there was no mention of the Cardano protocol, right? It was like we were supposed to grow Cardano, but they wanted to do missionary work. And I'm fine with that. But it's supposed to have something to do with Cardano, and that was kind of why I did the mission-driven challenge. I mean, we do have a significant number of people within the community who want to do charity work, that they're not really focused on growing blockchain ecosystems because they don't know about that, but they know where, people have needs. And so I think we should do that as a community. I mean, we have that kind of money. And so I think, Kenrick, it's a really good idea to go ahead and submit a challenge proposal that is narrowly defined.
Okay.
That's why I like Socia's thing for open source, an open source challenge. Okay, I don't have the words right now, but I think that's a really good proposal.
Very good.
Yeah, I think I've been
And
spamming a bit
Sophie,
too much, but yeah, there's the first one I made was actually, it aligns very much with what you described. So it's I kind of also really like this idea of that has been floating around, that we can use challenges as a means of experimentation, right? A challenge can have its own set of governance, its own set of rules, and by doing it that way, it can be an experiment towards Voltaire. And to support this idea, I made a challenge to create basically kind of tools, the kind of tools you're working on, Kenrick, or the kind of work you're working on, that would support, that could be adopted by challenge teams or challenge proposers to be included in their challenge. And that would be a very gradual way towards adoption, because it's included in the voting system. Then you'd say like, hey, I'm making this challenge. It's going to use this separate sidechain for voting. We're using this system for CAs, right? And these have been developed in another challenge before, or so there is some gradual approach that we can use there to adopt these kind of systems, and then they can serve as their own little experiment to see how these systems work. And you can already start with that. I'm trying to do that by including like small rules in challenge proposals that would change the system a little bit. Like for example, you could say like, a lot of people are a little bit annoyed by the fact that it's such a hard cutoff, right? If the remaining funds is less than exactly what you propose, then you get skipped, right? Even $1, which is a bit unreasonable given that there is some grace. You could say like there's a 10% budget grace. You could say like, well, in this challenge, it's 90%. if the remaining funds cover 90%, then you get your funds, right? And you could just include that as a rule for that challenge only, and then it can lead as an experiment. See how that works out. And you can go way further as if you have the right systems that are built properly,
Yeah,
that can be adopted.
right. Right. Yeah, very good, Sophie. Yeah, I'd be interested in talking with you offline a little bit more about your own challenge.
I would say that I really like this approach to use the challenge settings as experiments to change a bit the rules, and for the same reason I have a challenge. I have a proposal in challenge settings. It's just a placeholder for now, but it's really simple. Like I saw that in the last funds in the DAP challenge there was basically a small number of proposals were funded because the amount of funds requested was really high. So the idea is just to create the exactly DAP challenge, but with a limit of funds that a specific proposal can request. So in this way, the idea is just to have more proposals funded in the same challenge. And if you have a small project, probably you can use this challenge instead of the main DAP challenge. And basically, this is another experiment to change a bit the way we are using now for the whole
I
process.
agree. I think both Lucio's and Sophie's ideas about the voting mechanisms are important. You know, probably when you set a challenge, you set a budget, but you also set a limit on the maximum for one project is a good idea. And that wouldn't, I don't think that would actually be a difficult change. And like Sophie said, you know, it's kind of the, well, frankly, I think most people writing the proposals know that they have to kind of think about their strategy, sort of bottom up, how much is this going to cost? But then top down, you know, where do I expect to rank in the voting, and what's my ceiling on the amount of funding I can get? And so it makes it provides, it adds some gamesmanship that maybe isn't really central to the process. So having some flexibility on how much a particular project got, based on what funding was left is a good idea.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that I find kind of strange, you know, about our process, because the you know, like I went through yesterday as much as I could, the proposals that I hadn't seen yet, you know, because I went through them all like on Friday or Saturday, you know, the whole Fund 6. And, you know, I couldn't believe, you know, it seems to me like it was more than 3 or 4. I mean, it was several proposals come in and were asking for more money than the challenge where the proposals were made. And to me, this is like part of that, you know, and I could also tell these were first time people. These are brand new people to the community. So there's some fundamental stuff of, I'll say it differently. There's basic information that new people in the community are not seeing, right? And some of it may seem like common sense to us from inside, but it may not be common sense, and it may need to be explicitly said, you know, and that you cannot expect as a new person in the community or anybody in the community to come in and take all the money in a given challenge with one proposal. You know, I think that should be made clear to people. Anthony, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the one thing which I was thinking is that there's a lot of ideation around the mechanisms by which the mechanisms of the proposal gets approved and taken through refinement, etc. And, you know, we're limited by this stupid interface. I'm sorry, it's a very limiting interface. And I was thinking, and I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. there's the software called Coda.io, which is in essence a no-code platform. But what it allows you to do is it's a mixture of sort of a document and a spreadsheet, and it allows you to create custom views on each row. Now, what that'll do is allow us to evolve the structure of the voting, like the proposal mechanism very rapidly. And if we could propose like for a budget just for that, I mean, Coda is, I mean, there's a price to it, there's licensing fees, it's not free, but it's a superior tool. And if we then have the ability to, I mean, I for example, use Coda for project management in my business as tech lead. So I know what it can do. Now, I know that if you get enough people that are Coda experts, you know, that they can create documents quite well, we could rapidly develop the process and have parallel ideas and use the same data. Like the proposal data set can be used across different proposal mechanisms, basically, and you know, without touching a line of code, basically. I think that would be a good idea, but obviously that's a proposal in itself, perhaps.
I don't know, you know, like that's a thing where you have to talk to IOG about that. I mean, you know, like there's nobody who likes idea scale. You know, I don't know a single person that enjoys using that interface. So that's why we need. That's why we're waiting on Voltaire. You know, that's why we're waiting on Voltaire.
This part of the process is always broken. So, Herman, please. I can't hear you, even though you're unmuted.
You still look muted to me, Herman.
It seems like you have a problem with your mic because you're unmuted, but yeah, maybe I don't know. Reset your settings.
Yeah, occasionally changing Zoom breakout rooms reconfigures your mic, so you might double check it.
So we come back to you later. So. Yeah, what I think, well, we are, every town hall, the first slide says that we are an experiment. And I think using the challenge settings more in that way totally makes sense. So I really like Lucius' idea of experimenting in that way. That means that we just have a limited amount per proposal. And yeah, is there anyone else that wants to maybe have submitted a challenge setting and wants to talk about that?
Mercy submitted
Mercy, yeah, I think Mercy. I'm not sure if is she with us?
I am here. I'm listening. Yeah, so I did put in one, and to tell you the truth, I got quite confused today about what Doss said in town hall. I hopped over to that room to see if I could ask him a question, but it's very busy over there because I don't know if we need to resubmit Grow Africa, Grow Cardano. But what I had submitted was just, you know, basically just bouncing off ideas with Steve, in the sense that, you know, like when you look at the Grow Africa community or challenge, you know, like, you know, as long as, you know, there's a word Africa in a proposal, you know, people just sort of throw it over there. So it gets quite busy and a bit unfocused. But, you know, like the real spirit of Grow Africa, Grow Cardano was actually when Steve and Greg submitted it was the infrastructure, right? The access to make sure that, you know, the basics that nobody, you know, like it's very difficult to sort of, you know, find the metrics or to track. That nobody, you know, like it was difficult to put in the other like developer ecosystem or some of those more sexy challenges, was just to create this, you know, so that it will be possible to sort of fund the infrastructure without which we can't do anything else. So I did put in a proposal. So it's called Infrastructure Development Equals Access Africa. So it's just basically, how do we make sure that we're opening up the continent so that we can do all the things that we need to do. And I was actually having a discussion with Felix from Swarm, and he had a great idea that I am hoping that we can put into that particular proposal, that instead of actually, within a challenge, instead of looking for people to figure out, okay, so what's the problem? And let me just submit a problem. We already know the problem, especially with Africa and some of the other sort of Latin America and some of those areas, that infrastructure is sort of a problem. So let's rather look for implementers. So that is how that challenge is going to be structured. I'm hoping that it will work because it will be a bit novel, but yeah. So that's it's right now. It's really bare bone, and Wanda is also co-proposer to the Grow East Asia as well. So yeah, very excited. There are other thoughts that I myself am having, but I think this is enough in terms of, I don't think I'm going to submit any more challenges. I think what we have now, especially with what Dor said today, that we might have to resubmit some old ones. I think that we sort of have our work cut out for us. So we'll just leave it at that. But thanks for what everyone is doing. Steve, thanks for your good work, and everyone, Anthony, what you're doing. Yeah.
I know Kenrick, Mercy, and I were really feeling you on proposals that win but are a few $100s short. I tell you, that's bitten Wada more than once.
That still hurt a lot of in the community. Like $700. Melanie, please.
Two questions actually for Mercy. So what you're trying to do is actually change the scope of that challenge, if I'm not mistaken, to limit it and categorize the different challenges that you already have addressed. Am I correct in that?
So yeah, thanks, Melanie. So right now, what I'm thinking is that it will likely be another Grow Africa. Maybe three, just because, like when you go to Grow Africa right now, there are some very good proposals there that are not necessarily infrastructure, right? So we do still need to have that challenge category at least, so that, like anybody, that has any proposal Africa related, very good, but can't find any other challenge to put it. And, as Steve was saying, it will actually advance the Cardano blockchain. At least they have a place to put it, because the potential in Africa is just huge. So whatever we can do to make sure that people have a place to explore that, I think that's always a good thing.
Yeah, it's one of the frustrating things, Melanie, about what for WADA is that they get a lot of support in the community, and they've had several. I don't even know how many proposals have been funded, but like everything's kind of contingent on being able to communicate with one another, which needs that infrastructure. And we kind of run up against that. Again, in this funding round's Grow Africa, Grow Cardano challenge, there's way more other stuff than infrastructure related proposals, and I think that makes it difficult for voters, and so that's why I like this idea of being more specific with challenges, setting challenges.
Is that coming in also together with the idea of the challenge teams, that there would be actually a challenge team that overlooks Grow Cardano or Grow Africa, Grow Cardano?
That's a new one for me. Like I'm still wrapping my head around that. I don't know if Lucio or Dominic have been involved in more discussions about that and have some clarity about challenge teams. It seems like another layer of I just want to say, it just seems like another layer of responsibility. Like I was kind of like saying, I don't want to do this in my challenge proposals, like I don't want to be this is just my idea, that's all.
To be honest, I have more questions about the challenge team than answers so far. And for me, the main question is, can I be a proposer when I am also kind of in this challenge team, but I didn't get a response so far. But
because I'm also, the other question I had for Mercy was that in challenge 4, I believe you submitted a challenge proposal for around sustainability and lining up with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And that one to me was much more developed than the one is kind of on the same as global adoption. And it's just, so I'm kind of confused why that one got picked over yours. But anyways, that challenge itself, though, is something that I am very passionate about. And I could see being an overseer and, helping guide it. So I'm assuming that's what a team is all about. Not necessarily that you're the proposer of the challenge, but a team comes together and helps you manage that so that it stays on track with what the intent is of the challenge.
Right. So,
that'd be great.
as Steve said, we are still sort of, I think we still need more information about the whole team idea and how that's going to work. But that proposal is going to be resubmitted if it hasn't been already. So Raz and Sophie are going to resubmit that. And I know that you are quite interested in that. So, if you can, leave a comment under it, and then, then when the time comes to form teams, we know that we have one more person to add to that team. Yeah.
I think
Thanks.
Sasha posted the link to the challenge, Melanie. So direct. And Derek, you are unmuted now.
I am. I have a voice.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm just going to try to bullet point or go fly through this as quick as possible. I was pushing for the challenge teams, but I was pushing for more specifically adding people into idea scale at the bottom of a challenge where it says the campaign team. I wanted a campaign team there so people could help, be in idea scale and help move proposals around, but obviously they can't add them there. That's what months ago when I started looking into idea scale, that's what I was thinking. The Google Doc that I shared, that is actually the challenge. It's not a proposal. And I was flipping it, when it was a proposal, it said, we want 10 proposals to do, to build 30 new galaxies and 50 new solar systems in the middle of a black hole for $30,000. I mean, that's what they're asking. We can't create these partnerships, but actually we can. We actually can. If we layer this on stake pools, mission-driven pools, and use the East or Western Hemisphere, we could actually come pretty close if we work together. I think that would be really, really awesome. I guess that's all I got. Yeah, that's it.
I don't really know what that means. 10 galaxies and 50 solar systems in a black hole.
Well, I mean, the challenge, the global partnerships challenge, is to create to set up a partnership with the UN and the World Bank. Okay, so let's go do that. And while we're doing that, let's create 130 local community centers, aka brick and mortar buildings. So do that for $30,000. That's the challenge. In Fund 4, Cardano Foundation submitted a challenge to do local community centers. They offered $50,000 for 3 centers. Mercy, is that right? roughly. I think it was pretty close.
Yeah, it was 50,000. I think that they wanted to do just 3 for the 50,000 for the year. But then there were quite a few that were submitted, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, exactly. So all the galaxies and universes is just, the idea of doing something impossible. Asking for something impossible.
Always when I read through this challenge, I'm wondering who was the voter. Not only who submitted it, also who voted for this one. But
well, who are the community advisors? Let's look at their comments and look at all of us. We have access to Idea Scale. There was 1 comment or 2 comments on it. Regarding why it got voted, because of the title. You could not vote against that. Global partnerships.
There
you
wasn't
vote
any,
no, you're nuts.
They had nothing in the narrative, in the body.
Right.
There was nothing, so like, we know that voters are doing that. And it's like, and on that regard, there's somehow something goes awry in the assessment process.
Oh, I'm so thankful you're talking about this, because it's like, how did this happen? So it is the voter and the system that comes along and grabs the title, because, it's like driving down on election day and it's like, who's got the most signs? Who should I vote for? Right? So yeah.
There's also a very strong correlation between the rating and the votes. Very strong. So you could basically say that at this point in time, for most challenges, the CAs decide who gets funded indirectly, right? Without intent, but that is sort of where we are.
And many criticize that.
Which is a case as well for like splitting up challenges more, making them more specific, and giving them their own systems. Maybe some could have expert CA systems in the end, and like I think that's really the route we should be working towards. Like there's good to be some general ones, but for some, and I think challenge teams maybe not as it is already should be that, but I think it's a step in that direction where it gives us something to try out, and sure they make a first offer, but or they give a first idea of what they think it could be, but we're free to have our own ideas, right? If you're a challenge proposer, you have a strong idea of like, well, what I think I should do is to offer to facilitate sessions to help proposers work together, right? And it's just something you can decide to do. It doesn't have to be obligatory. Proposers are free to join or not, but then you're taking on the role as something more than just a proposer. Is that a challenge team? I mean, it depends on how we define it, right? They make a first suggestion, and I think it's nice. It shows that they're willing, that they're looking for people. I think that's for me mostly it. It's like opening the door for people to take.
Here's $2,500. US dollars, $2,500.
Yeah, but it's not about but now you're just looking at the money value, right? It's not about the money value. It's about like acknowledging that it's a position and that there's some responsibility there.
Exactly. Yeah. Lucio, please.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see about this topic, to see how the rapid fund challenge that Felix are setting up for the circle, because the mechanism that they are preparing, it's basically the challenge team will be a team of experts that will select the proposal that will be approved, something like that. I don't really know about in the specifics, but I think the basic idea was this one, and it will be interesting to see if maybe the another mechanism to select proposals can be more effective for specific problems and topics.
The dog wants to say something.
I'm like, challenge teams don't have decision-making power. It's the community who decides. The treasury doesn't owned by the challenge team. Challenge team can only help, facilitate, report back to the community. And right now I'm guarding that. Okay, it's very tempting to just like hand over control from the community back to central source. But I think at least for the next, I think so far so good, you know, and there's no reason to do that. You know, it's a challenge. People can propose, and then voters can look who has a good, reasonable proposers, and then can decide. And then people work for the community. They don't work for the challenge team.
Okay. Okay. No, because I was talking to Felix some weeks ago, probably, and that was this idea for the rapid funding, but I don't know actually how it evolved. So, okay. I see what are you meaning. I totally agree with that. I was just thinking that probably experiment is always a good thing, and maybe for some specific topics it could be a way. Just I don't know, even vote for a committee for some really specific problems that you have to solve. Or even I don't know, the idea of having some domain expert to assess the proposals, something like this. I think that it can be really interesting to experiment for a specific challenge. But
you know, it could be a proposal. You can come in the proposal for rapid funding. You can say like, okay, our proposal is like we have these 3 people that are, you know, really smart, and so they will control a small fund, you know, and they will distribute like rapid funds, you know, and then we'll see how they perform over time. And then like, you know, maybe there's like another, maybe it's a monkey who chooses, you know, maybe there's like an algorithm who chooses, maybe, you know, there's like a gazillion options, right? How does rapid funds get distributed? But I think the challenge is like just having good metrics, that it's not a matter of opinion, but there's like some objective measurement that can help determine who had the best method, the most effective method. So we can scale up, right? Like a proposal that is performing well, and like get rid of proposals that are not doing a good job.
Sounds like an incubator inside Catalyst. So as an opportunity. Yeah, Mercy, please.
Yeah, thanks, though, for joining us, and glad to have you back from vacation. I think very soon it will be Danny's turn. Danny has been working like overtime. Anyway, I got a little confused about some of the proposed, some of the challenges, like the developer ecosystem that you resubmitted as a placeholder. Because I thought that some of those sort of old challenges are automatic. Like, okay, so the reason that I'm asking this question is, should we resubmit the Grow Africa, Grow Cardano challenge, or would that be an automatic, reappearance in Fund 7?
Yeah, resubmit for sure. All the funds, all the challenges are. No challenge is going to carry over automatically. Only challenges that are voted in explicitly by the community will carry over.
But Grow Africa did this time.
This time, yeah, but it's the end of our team to determine this. So we're handing over power. Okay. So part of it is like we will figure out. I think over time. I think probably in the next few months we'll figure out how we do the logic of carrying over, but the logic needs to be explicit and, kind of accepted by everybody, because so far the logic was like our team tries to, we did some data analytics and based it, but it was like, was not explicitly, the rules were not made explicit. So
I'm totally into doing it again. You know, I made the challenge proposals I did, and I felt like there was a hole there because I didn't know whether or not to do the Grow Africa one again. And I kind of felt like, if we say Latin America can have $500,000, and then I don't know for sure that Grow Africa is coming back in Fund 7, and I don't know that if it would stay at $250,000. You know what I mean? There's
Yes.
it didn't feel balanced.
Yeah, submit a placeholder immediately,
Okay.
just to close the window, and
Yeah, I can do
2
that.
weeks to reiterate, the Grow Africa challenge.
Okay.
Could it be a possibility for the future that when you submit a challenge, that it will last for maybe two funds, so that it's explicitly in the challenge already? So
That's an option. I think there's like one option is that there's some kind of a logic. Another option is like people say it's a recurring challenge over time. We need to analyze what's the right solution.
Okay.
Sorry to continue sort of this Q&A, but I have 2 questions that I wanted to ask you anyway. One is that relates to what we were talking about earlier in this conversation about experimenting with small rule changes in challenges and how you're thinking about that. To give an example, like if you would say that there's a limit on the budget that you can propose, or that based on the funding results, there's a different way to distribute the funds, maybe not getting skipped if it only misses a couple dollars, but like a 10% grace budget, buffer zone, sort of those kind of rules. If that's possible to facilitate, and how can we find out which ones are feasible to be included? Well, yeah, maybe that one first. I have a second question.
Yeah. So at some point, hopefully not too far in the future, the system could be really completely open for all sorts of experiments, right? Like who has voting power over certain type of decisions, like, the logic of the funding, the logic of the voting, it's like, there's so many moving parts, and we call these things generally governance parameters. Okay, like to give them a name, there's governance parameters, and probably if we had to break them down into actual parameters, there may be like 500 different parameters. You can change. Over time, in a programmable way, you would be able to change the parameters, and there'll be like a crazy experimentation, like the governance experimentation can happen in like kind of completely open field. Some person would say like, I'm the dictator, I know best, and I can bring more effect. And other people can say, we're doing this very specific social process where only people that can prove they live in a certain area, only they can vote, right? Like, because that influences them. Like, and all these things will run in parallel, and they will compete, and they will be like, that's like a long-term vision. Right now, we're taking like baby steps towards that. So and this challenge is the first step. Like, right? This is why it was like a circle sponsored one. This is why we're pushing it, because it's like a first like controllable small step in that direction, where it actually says the proposers, right, in the proposal itself, the proposals can offer their own logic, okay, for this governance. So they do it in a very contained environment, in under a very specific challenge. So at least you can start to compare effectiveness, and we can learn how to do bigger, more complex experiments. So I would say that at this stage, so at one point, all of this, even like how much time does it take to vote, like all this would be like variables. But I think for now, even just taking this little step is huge, and you have a lot of leverage informally. So, this you can, we can't like hard code a limit to the amount, for example. But we can recommend, the challenge team can say, we think more effective, because it's an experimental challenge, and you want to launch many experiments, like we recommend for voters, to pick smaller scale. But you can't make but you don't have hard-coded rules about it. And for now, like the logic of the reward algorithm, it's still not open for changes because it's because it's really complicated to implement, and there's other priorities. But little by little.
So that does lead into my second question. So kind of related to this, there's this proposal for a challenge to develop these kind of systems, right? Because I understand that there's technical limitations, like you need for some even like whole sidechain solutions to even solve that. And we can't do that yet. Does it make sense, like to even start a challenge to start working on those systems for the community, or is that just like way off for now, like not the focus?
I would vote for it.
The community will decide. Like the community can vote and figure out what they prioritize, right? I can only share my opinion.
Melanie, you're next.
So I apologize. I'm a little bit slow here. I'm still trying to figure out, I just put it in the chat, what it means to be a challenge team member. And, for myself, I'm interested in sustainability. I'd like to see a challenge setting really specific around those possibilities. And how do I find that? I'm going to join in with Mercy's to begin with, because she's already online with that. But say I have a different idea to do a challenge setting. Can you just tell me what I need to do? And I'm hoping that you will, Dor, if you can make sense of that, since you're here.
I mean, did you read the guidelines?
I've been looking at them. Yeah, I haven't gone through them really good. But see, I see this now.
So don't worry about it. Take a dive. Take a dive. Yeah. We're just
so if I go and sign up to
Melanie, listen. Don't worry about it. Read the guidelines. Some things maybe not super clear. This is like a first pilot. It's supposed to be rough. It's supposed to be, that's the whole point. Like we're gonna dive into it, and then we're gonna get feedback from the challenge teams. And it will be more clear and more focused, like for Fund 7. But right now, if you think you want to do this, do it, and don't sweat the details.
So if I was to sign up, then I go in and I've got the challenges to choose from, and I just pick one of those or two of those that I'm interested in. Is that the idea when I sign up to be a member, team member?
Well, if you propose the challenge, if you're part of the team proposing the challenge, you're on the challenge team.
Okay.
And there's also like a few challenges that the challenge team decided to open the opportunity for more people to join. So they will decide if they want you in the team or not.
And that's what's happening in the rapid funding method challenge right now. They're actually asking for applicants for that.
Yeah, basically the circle will review applicants and will pick a few that we think are a good fit.
Okay, so it says, because you have a document that you gave us a link to, was become a member, and it has these challenges, these different ones that you're interested in. I can just go ahead and flub my way through that one, pick a couple of those.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Dor.
And as far as I understand, you can also go through the challenge, the proposals in the challenge setting, and just ask the teams to join. Maybe that's
for sure.
Okay, Mercy before, yeah.
Okay, I'm taking over the conversation, so I'm gonna go. And good luck. Sorry for distracting everybody. But
No, thank you, Dor.
Before you go, could I ask one question?
No, you cannot.
Oh, I'm sorry for you, Anthony. So you had a
Sorry,
question?
I took his time. I had to grab him while he was here.
Well, I don't know. Maybe anyone else can answer this, because he spoke to the governance parameters basically, and them eventually becoming dynamic, and that being a complicated process, right? Does anyone have like a document or a piece of resource that they can show me what the existing governance parameters are in the Catalyst community? Because I'm interested in that, and I'm interested in like the necessary complexity of that. Because I would like to see if I could develop that, like just in Coda, and just recodify the entire Catalyst thing, something like that. Because it must be readily available if it's fixed at the moment. That had to have been decided at some point.
You know, Anthony, I think you should write the proposal to do that and get paid for it. I mean, that's what I think. You know, I mean, like you know it. You know, talking to us is distracting you from doing it. And I think you should just, you know, if you can present something, you know, that, as you say, is better, you know, like I said, nobody likes this, right? You know, like but you know, those parameters of, you know, like, I don't know what the technical parameters are of connecting the Jormungandr testnet to idea scale with proposals, and then the voting app. I don't know those technical details. So I don't know if, even if you get a really great product to present to the community, I don't know that IOG can flip the switch and go over to that, you know, because there's that other level of it. But
yeah,
you know, in terms of like, you know, demonstrating something better now lets the community know that, you know, hey, this is not the end all and be all, and that's worth paying for. You know, like I would vote for that.
Well, I mean, like the thing is that I have ideas, right? I mean, I've had ideas for many years. But my point is that something has already been developed. I don't want to kind of restart it from scratch. Is that there are thought processes behind the funding mechanism itself, the exact amount to each category, the categories, how the categories get voted, the period between each funding round, even the fact that, you know, it doesn't carry over, etc. These are all governance parameters, you know, as Dor put them.
Right.
Where is the existing documentation so that I can say, okay, cool, these are boundaries that I cannot change, right? That is something I can't change, but the everything else I can, right? Like, okay, cool, this whole process can be improved and made easy, because I mean, Vincent was saying today that he's finding it difficult to search across idea scale itself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, why can't we just have an API to that, and then we can just do a GraphQL query, you know, just to some to some sort of other source of database? And I'm just like, okay, well, you know, these are the things that those are not parameters that we're limited by, you know.
I'm just wondering, Lucio, would Vladimir know more about this?
I think that there was about the API in Idea Scale. There were some problems about privacy, because Idea Scale it's designed to be used for closed community, basically non-public community. So there were some problems about the API. But I talked to Marek some days ago, and I think probably in the next basically soon we will have access to the official API. They are making the last tests. And also about the I think that a lot of parameters that are now used for the governance in general are not part of some code. They are just defined like the timelines, stuff like that. And I don't think there is some code linked to that. But there is a repository. I'm searching it. That there was basically a collection of tools that they are using for the voting count, the toll, basically. and also some other governance processes. Probably it can be useful for you. I have just to search it.
So what I would like is not even just, I don't even need an API. I mean, API was just something that would allow, for example, Vincent to search across the idea scale and give him that dimensionality of idea scale. I would mind just a pure data dump. I mean, I know there's security concerns, so we can figure out how to tie the accounts together. But if I could just take idea scale and literally have a data dump of that, put it into Code.io, figure out how people can then re-register and claim, or we have a one-to-one mapping of security between the idea scale dataset and Coda. And then from there, we can pivot all the tables, pivot all the views, and rediscover like all the proposal mechanism, basically. That would be something I'd be interested in. So just sort of rapidly develop, not kind of wait for the next 3 months. Like let's get this kind of done. And then we can sit down and have discussions about, okay, well, this view would be like nice like this, and we should be able to rate this, and we should be able to put pros and cons and risks and whatever,
So Danny just typed in the chat that it can't be done today in a safe way. So at some point in what you were just describing that you would like to do. I'm sorry, I have to go. I have another meeting I have to get to. I've really enjoyed the discussion. Grateful to Dominik for asking me, and we'll see you all next week.
Great.
I'm gonna go.
Bye, Steve.
It was great to meet people and enjoy chatting.
Yeah, thanks for all for being here, for having this great conversation. I think some good stuff was coming up, and then I think we ended officially here, and I think it was almost 1.5 hours, and so much longer than I expected as well. Thanks all, and see you. I think the next event is WADA conference on Saturday, so maybe see you there. Bye bye.
Bye bye.